Hello, this is Rudy Giuliani, and this is America's Mayor Live, and live from New Hampshire, Dover, New Hampshire. Well, it looks to me like the string has run out on the despots of the East. Maybe the parade was a little too much. I doubt it. I would say the killings were a little too much. Whatever views our president, Donald Trump, had of the tyrant, despot, and murderer, Vladimir Putin, had to be completely blown out of the water by his conduct in the last 4 to 5 weeks, this extra period where there were deadlines, and they were going to talk about peace, and they were going to talk about saving Russian lives and saving Ukrainian lives, and trying to get things back to normal. That's what we're going to be talking about over the last 4, 5, 6 weeks. Instead, Putin found excuses of the dumbest and stupidest kind to delay that. He never actually gave a good reason for delay, like there was something he had to assess, something he had to look at, some group he had to mollify. No, he just said he wasn't ready to meet with a Zelensky who he considered not legitimate. Now, his considerations for illegitimacy, of course, were patently absurd. To be rejected out of hand by all. He wasn't properly elected or properly held over in office. The reality is neither has Putin been properly elected in a long, long, long time. And it would seem to me, if somebody were going to raise that, the last guy that could raise that would be Putin. Then he was going to meet with them, but only after others. Well, they went through with Lavrov any number of embarrassing excuses that a 12-year-old would find embarrassing if their best friend tried to get a date based on these things. Now, it's even quite insulting the way he did it at his meetings with the 3 despots, where he was with the guys he feels most comfortable with. Xi Jinping, I don't know how many he's killed under his belt, 20 million, 30 million, 40 million. Kim Jong-un, maybe 10. Putin, who knows? Who knows? Nobody. They just all get poisoned. When they talk out against him, speak against him, write against him, they end up somewhere and then they're poisoned. Some die, some don't die, some live in agony for the rest of their lives. These are people he feels extraordinarily comfortable with because they have the moral fiber of of Satan, really. And so with them, he can be kind of a wise ass. And what did he say during this meeting of the big parade where Xi Jinping was supposed to frighten Donald Trump into agreeing to anything they wanted, when he saw that they had all this armament, all this equipment that was 2 to 3 generations behind ours, and probably could locate precisely where they were stolen from and from whom they were stolen, and actually is now working on stopping them from stealing maybe the next generation or the one after it or the one after it that we're working on. So I don't know. I don't know really how smart they are. We've always overestimated both of them. And every time push came to shove and we got a view of what they actually had, it was far less. Now, with Trump as the president, we really overestimate them, because even though they're evil and harmful and we hate them and they got to be smarter than Trump, right? Because they got to make Trump into the bad guy. Problem is they're not. They're not even a match for him. So Putin is coming up with a very inventive and creative military move that should shock our American generals. Or it could look like chapter 14 in their book, History of War, which they memorize at West Point. He's doing exactly what Hitler did at the Battle of the Bulge, except on a pissant scale and with a useless army that can't seem to fight Ukraine. So he's moving. Russia is moving 100,000 troops to the east, right up against all those other countries. To the extent they border one or two NATO countries, to the extent they border Ukraine, he's going to move up 100,000 troops. Hitler tried it with 800,000, and it didn't work when he moved them from Russia to the border with Germany and France. It did cost us a lot of lives, but gosh, we won the war, and we would have lost even less lives if Roosevelt hadn't been in a Biden-like condition, unable to make decisions, and had absolute communists around him making decisions that were more favorable to Uncle Joe than they were to the United States, as these great men of history complained, Douglas MacArthur and Winston Churchill. So he's gonna move 100,000 troops to the east, so that he can really wipe out, if things don't work, Ukraine. I don't think we're quaking in our boots, nor was it unexpected. To borrow your military playbook from Hitler only shows that, like China, you are, both as a military power and as an economic rival, a second-rate copier. Now, you, Russia, are a second-rate copier. China, I will say, is a first-rate copier. They are the guys who can cheat on exams and make it look, maybe they write better than you do. And their exams, they cheat, they write everything you write. They don't know the answer, but they write it better and the teacher likes it better. And they get a higher grade even though you had all the information. The United States, however, has a couple of moves that are not silly, childish, borrowed from textbooks from other wars, because we're incapable of original thinking. I mean, my goodness, if you listen to General Kane on Fox, for any 5 minutes, you get more original thinking that the Chinese general staff has had in 50 years. So the US now is making a new demand on Europe, and so far, we're betting 1,000 on demands that no other American president could get. Oh, he was going to disorganize the European Union. They were going to walk out on him. They liked it better when Biden was there or not there. They liked it better when nobody showed up for the United States, and they used to call the bed chamber. And somebody, if they didn't know who, would give an answer like, are we going to put boots in the ground in Ukraine? And then from behind a curtain, you would hear, no boots on the ground in Ukraine. That's the way it worked. It was like behind a curtain. There were a group of people. We will never know who they are. We'll never know who they are. Although some people insist one of them was the Wizard of Oz. Not Dr. Oz, not to be confused with Dr. Oz, but the Wizard of Oz, who was in Hollywood during the communist era, remember? So that's the way they would get answers. And now they say, we're going to move 100,000 troops to the Eastern Front. And Trump's response is, geez, I seem to have read that in the newspaper in 1945, 46. Didn't Hitler do that, jackass? And by the way, it needs to be about 1 million troops, not 100,000. But I think you're going to lose them all, Vlad, but that's okay. Do what the hell you want, because here's what we're doing. I'm telling my newly revived European allies, as they are now putting together 26 peacekeepers and haven't had one turn them down. They're like really anxious to get in there and get right next to Russia. I wonder why. You think they're looking for some confrontations because of when you counted up all of those countries, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Czechoslovakia. How many people did you kill there? Poland. Oh man, you killed a lot of Poles. You think they like the Russians? How many of these soldiers are you going to put there have a grandfather whose body parts you took off them? A lot. So they're really anxious to get there, probably to protect Ukraine, but maybe to get a shot at a couple of your people. Who knows? Hey, we're not involved in it. I'm not suggesting anything like that. But you got some really badasses there that don't like you. But beyond that, I'm sorry, but there's another thing we want to add to that. So they're going to be there, whether you like it or not, and you're not getting a veto power. We don't have veto powers against enemies. I mean, I'm not giving you I mean, it doesn't do me any good to do the veto power. All my Republicans double cross me. So no veto power. We decide on our security. You know, it's a new concept, Vladimir. You're the enemy. You're the one that Ukraine has to be secured against, and you want to set up the security. I understand how people much smarter than us go for that, but we're just dumb, you know. Like JD comes from the Midwest. He's not very sophisticated, but you know what he told me? He told me it usually doesn't work that way. Usually, if you're securing yourself against your enemy, you don't let them set up the security. So we're going to try it this time. So you're not going to put your damn hands on it. It's going to be done by those 26 countries that hate you. They're going to secure Ukraine, and you're going to live with it. Because if you don't, you're going to starve to death. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up a peacekeeping force there that also has its eye on something else: peace, and nobody's buying Russian oil. Seems like nobody likes Russian oil, and nobody likes buying it anyway. You charge too much. So we got this other oil that we're selling. It's called Ukrainian oil. Oh, and gee, I got to admit a bit of I wouldn't call it a conflict, but a bit of an interest here. My country has a piece of that. So you screw around with that, you're screwing around with the United States of America. And Vladimir, I'm getting tired of being screwed around with. Don't push me. So I think you show up at the bargaining table and you just agree, get this over with, because if you don't, the sanctions are actually going into effect. I put 2 in effect last night. The India one we're really cracking down on now. I think, you know, those emergency reserves that you needed for all of Siberia and part of Crimea, you're going to need it for all of Crimea and all of Siberia, and it's going to spread. And my objective is to have the people of Russia demanding that you do this because they're starving. I don't want to do it to them, but I got to find a way to save lives without killing people. And I put their lives in your hands. We're going to starve them, and you're going to save them by agreeing to an agreement that I like, not one that you necessarily like. That's what you can get to do when you're the richest country on earth and you're the most militarily powerful country on earth. more powerful than you and your little friend who likes to do parades. I have to tell you also, our generals found several major problems in your parades that will allow very quick victory if we go to war against you. But they told me I'm not allowed to tell you. Okay. Then I think the president should take up the immortality thing with him. Say, Vladimir, you know I like you very much, but I'm getting concerned about you. I really am getting concerned. That conversation that you had with Xi Jinping, may I first recommend you used to be a Russian Orthodox Christian, and you told Bush that you are now. You can't be. Russian Orthodox Christians don't slaughter innocent people. Right? And there's a lot of other things you do that I don't want to point either, but I don't go around touting my religion on my sleeve. But this thing about how you guys can pull organs out of people and stay alive, you and your Chinese pal. First of all, there's a whole big investigation that China's making a fortune doing that with live people. You see, in the civilized world, you very, very scrupulously wait until the person is dead. And then you take the organs that are allowed to be taken by the person. And then they determine whether they're healthy enough for being used for, what would you do it for livers, kidneys, hearts, brains. We've had to do that with Biden several times. Unfortunately, the brain thing doesn't work. You didn't know that? Oh yeah, Biden had two or three of those, and they just didn't work. A lot of Democrats have had brain transplants. That's why you see them walking around like complete dumbass fools. So you guys actually think that if you really master this pulling organs out of live people, you can make yourself young. You go get a younger heart and you're going to be younger. Or you get a younger, I don't know what else, spleen or brain or you know what else. You guys, I know what you guys have been looking for anyway. Well, look, it was not necessary that you, and I would not answer that question for you because I don't talk about that stuff. But it is true that, I mean, you guys are kind of old now, and being that small could be an embarrassment for your whole life. And I can understand how you might want a transplant, but I've never heard of a transplant working in that situation. And aren't you a little old for that now? You think that's why you're such bullies? I don't know. See, he's got to have these open conversations with them. If he really wants to rap with them, this is the way to do it, you know? So I do think he's at a point where it's not going back anymore. I've never seen him take this much shit anyway. So I'm really expecting quite a not you know, not like an angry display. And that's why I played it out the way I did for the last 4 or 5 minutes. Played it out kind of sarcastically. I kind of see it in the remark back to them, you know, basically wishing them good luck as they're conspiring against the United States. That was a boom. Well, do we have a little bit of this to play for them so they can get a sense of the gravitas or the lack thereof? I know some of it was played yesterday.
You played it yesterday. You're going to have to watch with the subtitles.
That's now, you know, you could get confused because from that far away, it could be the Russian army, right?
Right.
But that's the Chinese army.
Right.
And Putin is there as a guest.
Right. So this
Putin of the three, he's the shortest one.
Right.
发展，人类的器官会不断的移植，甚至越活越年轻，甚至会长生不老。来预测呢，本世纪呢，可能未来可以活到150岁。
And it's hard to take up twice the space of Fatso, but he's better. He's in better shape than Fatso. You know, it looks like he's even heavier than Fatso, but in better shape.
Well, I don't know if you saw the source right up there. It's indicated CCTV. So I think that any little games that they can play with that video are being
Little
played.
games. I think they played big games. First of all, they make him 10 years younger.
Yeah, they're pretty good at, you know, manipulating
And
video
they're
and
not
such.
doing Fatso or the Mad Murderer much good.
Right. Well,
they're making Putin
it's a
look
difficult
small.
job, probably.
No, but
honestly.
I think they're making Putin look smaller.
Oh, uh-oh. Well, we'll see how that drama plays out.
From now on, you got to watch that stuff very, very carefully. You know, I used to analyze lots of this stuff in the 70s and the 80s on Russian surveillances. They used to try to fool around in the silliest possible ways then, because it was hard to do. Like they were constantly trying to make Reagan smaller.
Hard to do, but harder to catch at the same time. You know, now we have a little bit more ability and a little bit more savvy to know that we're being manipulated.
At first, it was very easy to catch, and then they stopped doing it. Then when they started doing it, it was very hard to catch. They went and perfected the art to the extent they could back then. But their big one was, you know, Reagan dominated. And they didn't like that. They didn't like that.
Oh, yeah. Who was the meeting with Khrushchev? And then he didn't wear the suit, or he wore the suit instead of the jacket.
Gorbachev was like 4 inches shorter than him. Yeah. And so was every other fat little Russian.
And less handsome.
But, you know, they would do things like one time they just, somebody tripped where one of the fat little drunk Russians tripped wearing one of these things.
And you know, a few of our local politicians might be guilty of something like that.
You know, Reagan wouldn't do it, but it was recommended that Reagan put on a pair and get up to about 6'4" or 6'5", just so they would have to get on a lap.
It's an arms race, right? It's an arms race. It's a heel race.
You would think an actor might think of doing that. I kind of was for it. I just thought it would be so much fun if he showed up.
And I heard Nancy Reagan, the first lady, was quite the producer as well. She was kind of had an eye for that and what would work, you know, in different scenarios. And she would dress
and Mike Deaver were very close. So the Trump arrangement was a very interesting chief of staff arrangement. He couldn't make up his mind between three. His loyal, the one he would have gone to out of pure loyalty was Ed Meese. Ed Meese had been with him from back when he was governor. He had been chief of staff when he was governor, when he'd been quite successful. He had been with him when nobody else supported him. And he knew him probably, but no. He knew him best tied with Deaver. Deaver was with him for quite some time, but Deaver was the showman. Deaver used to put, I don't know if they had comms directors then, Ted, but he was a comms director plus. You know, a comms director who really was the speechwriter, a comms director who really was the political strategist.
Right.
So he would go to the meetings with the Pauls, but then he was the guy that would do the Hollywood set. He was particularly close to Nancy. I believe he and Nancy had been friends previously. So she didn't mind and sort of felt comfortable interfering with his work. Plus, because she was an actress, he felt she could add value to his work.
Exactly.
So there's very few sets of his that she didn't have a hand in. Like even the decoration of the first time I spoke gave the major address at the Reagan Library. I was the mayor then, and she always greeted the principal speaker. Every year they have a principal speaker. And she always greets them and gives them a gift in the replica of the Oval Office, the way the president would have done. And I was shocked out of my mind, even though I had seen it before visiting the library. I had not spent a lot of time at it. I was shocked at how perfect it was. But I also realized, because I had such a great view, that it was about 10% smaller.
Wait, really?
Maybe
Just do it. Just do it the full way.
maybe they couldn't get the extra space on the somehow they just couldn't get the extra space. It was a big problem. And actually, I think when they designed it originally to insert the Oval Office, they designed it incorrectly. Whoever designed the Oval Office as like 10% less than it actually was. And then by that time, you couldn't break out all the walls.
Oh,
So-
what do you think Trump would say about that for his library? That would not be.
I will tell you the truth, though. Except if you were me, who was mesmerized by the Oval Office anytime I was in there, you wouldn't have felt it. And she decorated it in a slightly looser way. Like she took the furniture down a little bit in size. So she made it,
The proportions.
She got it about as close as you could get.
Proportional wise.
Yeah.
Now, is it still in its 80s style, or is it, how did they do it? Did they have like old phones and such?
Yes. I haven't been there in about 6 years. But when I left there, it was the same as it was the day that I went and interviewed in 1981.
Oh, good God. I got to get out there. Be a fun little time capsule.
And it was designed very much like there were not too many differences between that and Trump's first Oval Office. He brought the same desk. Trump brought the same desk.
What are they're on the Resolute, or what are they?
The Resolute desk, which is not there now, it's being fixed.
Okay.
He has a smaller desk right now.
Well, that's where the treasure map was in National Treasure, so maybe they had to repair it.
This is back from This is actually from January. So, oops, sorry. This is when the president took the vice president into the Oval Office for the first time.
Oh, was he taking him on a tour?
Yeah.
Do you know he is a fabulous tour giver of the White House? He is. I mean, it's fabulous, and it's wonderful to see a president so enthusiastic about the White House.
Right.
Well, and that honors the American history that the White House encompasses, right? It's
This is where Grant, threw a cigar butt or whatever.
yes.
and created a little fire, and it's really funny. It's really funny how much he pinches himself that he's president. It's like when he called me to say, I'm going to give you the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I went like, no, this must be a result of my accident, and I'm unconscious. It must be one of those good dreams that takes care of the nightmares. So, do we have anything?
On the Oval Office?
Yeah, I thought we were going to see if we have a few comments of his about Ukraine.
The president?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll tee those up here. Yeah, so he was yesterday, right? He met with.
Oh, there he is. Oh, yeah. There's one of our guys.
Well, he had a phone call with Zelensky yesterday. Let's see if he. So he did urge folks to stop purchasing Russian oil. So we'll see if we can play a clip of that from the Oval Office. I guess he was with the president of Poland.
That deadline is now nearly approached. Can you give us any indication of when you will make it?
Well, I'm having a conversation with him very shortly, and I'll know pretty much what we're going to be doing. We've taken very strong action, as you know, and in other ways we've taken very strong action. But I'll be speaking to him over the next few days, and we're going to see.
With whom, sir?
I'm going to know exactly what's happening.
Mr.
But
President,
I'm not happy with all the people. You got 7,819 people killed last week. Russian soldiers and Ukraine soldiers, right? Not American soldiers, not soldiers from Poland, but they're human beings, they're souls. They have parents, they wave goodbye to their parents, and their parents never see them again. That's the end of over a stupid war, and I want to see it stopped.
Don't worry, that's not.
Well, I hope you can detect the sincerity in the statement. They're not American soldiers, but they're very important to him. What he's reflecting is, of course, his own decency and his own upbringing as a Christian and an American. But he's reflecting thousands of years of Western civilization, which has contributed much, but its signal achievement is the value of human life. I would say, if you would like to have a debate and you want to pay a lot of money for organizing one, you go find me the people who want to debate against Western civilization on the theory that their civilization elevates human life and the human being to a higher status than the civilization that started pre-Hellenic and that now has culminated in the United States and Europe. He showed me the civilization that values the human being in all respects. Now, I'm willing to do it with two sides, a piece of paper with two sides, pluses and the minuses, and then let's see if we can, since they're the group that wants to take over for us. Let's see what the contribution of Russian communism has been to that, or Chinese communism, or the Prophet Muhammad. Let's see what the Prophet Muhammad's contribution has been to the elevation of the importance of all human life, including those who disagree with you, Jewish, Christian, so-called infidels, and how they should be handled. And then you tell me why we don't have to be on alert, that their goal is to eliminate us. No, because they believe that they have the one true revelation. And their revelation not only their revelation isn't content to just be secure in being the one true revelation that at some point in the unpredictable future will prevail, but the one that has to be made to prevail by the use of significant violence, military force, torture, extortion, and all other forms of illegal activity. That's the difference between us. It's the if we take these two movements, first the Mohammed movement, the Islamic movement, whichever you want to call it, which is earlier, and we take the communist movement, we find that although it shares very little in common in the sense of its derivation, one is a spiritual derivation, the other is a political derivation, but there's something spiritual about it also, I would say, or at least it claims to be. But they end up at a certain point meeting and then dividing. And to understand the world we live in, you need a very, very good understanding of that. That isn't going to be altered by momentary events and moments of tremendous drama. So we'll take a short break, and We'll be right back. U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee. Welcome back to America's Mayor Live. I think we've done some in-depth coverage of what's going on and what's going to happen with Ukraine, Russia, and the United States. And I do think a push is coming to shove very, very soon. And since there seems to be an affinity for weekends for these kinds of things, I'd be very alert over the weekend for some step to be taken that will be quite crushing on the Russians. Don't expect it to be military. Expect it to be economic, but economic on a scale that I don't think you've seen before. The president has, in a very, very unusual historical act, seems to have involved himself in the mayor's race. And I can understand why. I still think there are pros and cons that can be discussed about this. And I think on maybe tomorrow night, we'll see if we can do a little panel discussion on that. Because there is no one view of that as to whether it's right or wrong. Generally, you would say a president shouldn't get involved in a mayor's race, particularly when he's got 26 elections coming up right after it that are of real significance to him, particularly since you have honestly very little control over it. I was elected the year after Clinton was elected. No one ever expected a Republican to be elected. A Republican was elected in New Jersey a year after Clinton was elected. And a Republican was elected in Virginia a year after Clinton was elected. So there's a reason for that. A lot of people think, oh, they rebel against that's not true. It depends on the local issues that are going on. The local issues, mostly subordinate the national issues. And then every once in a while they don't, so you get an exception. Then you think it always works that way. So I would say the president normally would not get involved. Here again, I think the president is acting out of principle and acting out of real concern for the United States of America. They've had some very strange and weird mayoral candidates that have to have offended him immensely and also worried him for the good of his country that he's in charge of. But there hasn't been a Mondami. There hasn't been a guy that so openly embraced Marxism, Chinese version of communism, a hatred of the United States, a disdain for the United States, a hatred for New York. And I guess it's also underlined by the fact that he is a New Yorker, and therefore, there is a socialist communist running in Minneapolis, and he doesn't seem to be paying attention, nor is the world. But excuse me, I know it's hard when an ex-mayor of New York says this, but Minneapolis is not New York. Like, nobody in Europe will know who the hell got elected in Minneapolis or care much. And if it is a socialist, they'll say, oh, well, it's Minneapolis. If it's New York, to many of these people, New York is more famous than America. You know, I used to say to Governor Pataki, you say, Albany is the capital of New York. And I used to say, yeah, but, New York is the capital of the world. And then I would say that to President Clinton, too. Washington's the capital of the United States. Yeah, but New York is the capital of the world. And then Pope John backed me up when he came to New York. And he announced at the beginning of his speech that he was very glad to be in New York, the capital of the world. So that's good and bad, isn't it? It's really bad if you get a mayor who is an out-and-out communist. He's also a fool, an idiot, a jerk, unprepared, possibly dishonest, a sniveling little cheater, cheated in order to get into school by claiming he's black. He comes from Africa. And if he had put down Afro-American, which he did, he probably would have been lying in a way, but he could have gotten away with it. But he added the word black because he wanted to make sure he got the designation and the money. And that's a straight out and out lie. And it shows you what a sniveling little schnorrer he is. He is painfully a hater of Jewish people. And he supports the most outlandish form of anti-Semitism and supports Hamas, which is a terrorist group. Don't know if he's gone far enough to support Hamas to violate the laws. Wouldn't be surprised if he had. Can't imagine how you would give him any kind of information that's at all classified, not even classified, but information that you would just as a matter of common sense expect the mayor of New York would not disseminate. I wouldn't give him bupkis. I mean, I think it'll go right to the imam and right to the people that the Islamic extremist terrorists that he socializes with and that he's part of. His father is a left-wing Islamicist from way, way back. His mother is a communist. What else do you want to know about him? He wants to defund the police, and he's going to do it. So I don't know. Now, the president has now said that he wants the others to get together and decide who should run and pick the best candidate. I think the president had to interrupt Adams at a birthday party for Mohammed in order to tell him this, which would immediately disqualify Adams as having the common sense to be the guy to do it. Look, Adams has some good ideas. I like Adams. He called me to wish me well when I was injured a few days ago. That was very, very nice. It was a very, very nice thing to do, for someone who's been both a critic and a supporter, but back and forth. But it was just a human thing to do, and I appreciate it. But this is not who's the most feeling person. This is who can win. I would never select the guy I'm going to select on the basis of this is some form of ideal public servant. We're doing this under great pressure with political realities, what they are in brainwashed New York, and name recognition, money, everything else. But I do think, Eric, a birthday party for Muhammad, it indicates you haven't grown up. You're not a well-educated person. Please don't take it as an insult. And please don't take it as a racial anything. A lot of people don't know Muhammad's history as a murderer, as a pedophile, as a robber, who's dedicated the second half of his life to getting money any way that he could, including through holding them in servitude. So you don't celebrate the birthday of a mass murderer, pedophile, unless you want to continue the enormously damaging fairy tale that Muhammad was the founder of a decent religion. A decent religion is found by a decent man, not by a man who kills Jews, kills Christians, rapes women, rapes young women. That's a man who, if he's the head of a religion, it's kind of he becomes like, you pray not to be, you put him up on the altar and you pray not to be like him. You put up, it's like anti-Satan worship. Now, if you read Marx and you want to figure out, and we're going to do some pieces on this, how this peace treaty has existed between Islam and communism, where there would be a natural dichotomy, because communism abhors religion. Some of it has to do with communism's acceptance of reality. There are certain realities that for a period of time have to be accepted, and you have to take on allies that you would otherwise abhor. And that's what they're doing right now. So it seems to me that Adams and my good friend Curtis Sliwa, who would be my top choice, by far, without any doubt. But I don't think if the two others cave in, I don't think Curtis can go from wherever he is now, 17, 18% to it would almost have to be 50, maybe that one candidate, Warren, will stay in, but he'd almost have to get to 50%. I don't see it.
Well, let's add the major caveat that we live in interesting times, and we still have, a relatively long period of time before the election. So I will say that anything can happen, but I think your analysis is obviously correct. But I wouldn't want to count anyone out.
I'm glad you interrupted, because I don't want to make my analysis sound like it's cathedral. I'm not the Pope, and I'm not laying it down. And there are times in which I have very, very solid view. Before the last election, aside from my emotional fear, I was sure Trump was going to win.
I know, right?
Every intellectual part of me, everything I had ever learned in politics, long ago and now, said, no way Trump doesn't win. Solid. I didn't think he'd win a landslide. And I know he calls it a landslide. I don't think he won a landslide, but he won something like a landslide. And in electoral America, he won a landslide. I didn't think anybody could separate by that many votes now.
And the broad, yeah.
But
the
every
broad
time, but every
coalition.
time I describe that election, I try to do a caveat like I'm doing right now. Just separate me into two. If I take away all emotion and I do it as a political professional, which I guess I'm entitled to be, I ran for office, et cetera. I tell you, this is a pretty solid Trump victory. If I do it as just living in this time, this age, with the surprises we get, I think it's a narrow Trump victory, and I wouldn't be shocked if we get surprised.
Exactly. See, that was the one thing. It's like we don't know what kind of cheating could have happened or might have happened regardless. But moving that into the New York race, so Mondami doesn't have a machine base, right? Like the machine, correct me if I'm wrong, but does the New York Democrat machine?
And I don't know where they are.
See, that's the thing, because will they be willing to put that machine to work for Mondami, or will it go?
I don't know. You see, I don't think it'll go to work for Cuomo. It was never Cuomo's. Cuomo's machine was a statewide machine. He never had a great New York City machine. And he just got the New York vote being a Democrat. It was like, I don't have to work hard for this. It's 70% Democrat and I get 65%, and I don't have to do much for it. He never had to put together organizations here. He had to work on it in upstate New York.
And the Cuomo name hasn't, become too toxic for the people.
Well, isn't that interesting? The Cuomo name, which would have been a real plus 10 years ago, I don't know.
Because I think of nursing homes and like
It's no
young
longer,
ladies.
the Cuomo name used to be wonderful old Mario,
Yes.
whether Mario had his falsehood up by the time he was out of the governorship a certain amount of time, and by the time he died, he had something like folk status.
Yes, of course. Well,
He was
that's,
like one of the
that's how they became what
He
they
was
are.
one of those. Gee, I wish we had a governor like Cuomo again. Now Cuomo had a lot of political failures, and if you said that to me, I wish we had a governor like Cuomo again, I would say, you wish we're bankrupt again? However, I also would say, do you like having a moral man again? Because you did. And do you like having an intellectual man again? I enjoyed my conversations with Mario, and it was quite a combination when you had him and Moynihan. But here's the other thing. Neither one of them could make a decision. Mario was known as the Hamlet on the Hudson, because he could never decide whether to be president.
Never decide what?
He could never decide to put his hat in the race as president during two different presidential elections.
Okay.
And one time, the 92 time, which is in the movie, it's played in the movie by someone who does a good job of playing Mario, though you never think of it. He can't.
What's it called? What's the movie called?
The Color Purple? Purple something?
Huh.
Color It Purple? Bill Clinton is played by Johnny Travolta plays Bill Clinton.
Oh, that would work well. I haven't seen this. But
Johnny
I bet that would
Travolta
work.
plays Bill Clinton.
Oh my gosh, I bet that's spot on. Is it good?
I think it's good. I think it's good, and it is 80. Given the fact that it is not it doesn't purport to be a work of history or a biography. It purports to be a fictionalized history
That tells the truth.
I
Basically.
think you have the general truth,
Like this is how it.
but
could went down.
it does present Hamlet on the Hudson Mario.
It's not a
Except
musical.
they make him, I think, to change the names, the governor of Pennsylvania instead of New York, who, if he got into the race, would have threatened Clinton getting the nomination, which is true. He might have gotten the nomination.
Interesting.
But he was always very, very unsure. And even as a governor, and I remember I coexisted with him as mayor for 4 years during my toughest 4 years. So I had to work with him. And he was very, very fair, very, very honest, never took it out on me because I was a Republican, maybe even helped me a little bit more because I was a Republican. But then again, he could never make a decision. It was really annoying. You'd make a deal. And then let me see another paper on this. Let me see another paper on that. It was like we were in a seminar.
Yeah. Open-mindedness can have that.
That's the part of it that would have made me question, aside from his rather liberal ideology, what kind of president he would have made. Because that's one of the, I mean, that's kind of the thing that's kind of the thing that Carter had. He couldn't make a decision. He couldn't make a decision either.
Yeah. Well, Carter, for all his faults, was guided by his faith.
Yeah.
And those are some consequential moves you're making at that high of a level. And I can imagine he probably had to spend a lot of time praying with everything that's put at the foot of the president's desk. So,
well,
understandable.
Venezuela got hit big by the U.S. We took out a massive amount of fentanyl, headed to the United States to enrich China, enrich the cartels, and destroy American lives. And they're destroyed at the bottom of the Caribbean. They made some kind of a pass at one of our Navy vessels in protest of it. It amounted to nothing, and we did nothing about it. There was nothing to do about it. I do think if they do it again, they're going to be sitting at the bottom of the Caribbean. This is something Trump has, and Maduro, you're no match for Trump. Don't start doing macho stuff on him, or you're not going to be around long. This is Trump where you got to take him seriously now. This is it'd be stupid if you mess around here. Really, really stupid.
Kaboom.
That's supposedly carrying fentanyl or the next generation fentanyl, but a massive amount of highly lethal drugs. The Kennedy tour de force,
Right.
on it wasn't yesterday, it was all day yesterday, I think, right?
Right.
At the what committee was that? Senate Finance Committee. Now, the New York Post, which I don't know, this has got to be some kind of deal that Murdoch has with sucking up to the pharmaceutical companies. They just don't like Kennedy. Therefore, you don't get a good picture of what happened here and how good he was. They have a little sidebar. This is when you know they don't like you. I'm going to see if I can put this up for you. Kennedy, as you know, Kennedy has something of a speech impediment. I don't know exactly what it is. At first, it's a little disarming, but when you get to know him, I get around it now very easily, both in my personal conversations with him and in my let's see, let me find it here. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Here, I'm going to show this to you. I'm going to put it up like this because you'll see it better. Watch. See the article? And that's a cheap article. Stop breathing into the mic. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy drove viewers of his contentious congressional hearing to distraction Thursday. Distraction. I was cheering for him. So you speak for yourself. With his loud breathing. The guy's got a problem with his voice.
If you don't have the substance, attack the form.
Prompting an aide to quietly tell him that he should shut his mic off when not speaking. So what? Kennedy, 71, was in the middle of questioning by dishonest Michael Bennett, of the Senate Finance Committee, who is a whore for the pharmaceutical community. I'm rewriting it. I'm the editor. When an unidentified woman approached and whispered in his ear, in Kennedy's ear, the cabinet member smiled in response and pressed a button to cut off the speaking device. RFK suffers from spasmodic dysphonia, a neurological disorder that causes vocal cord spasms. So let's make fun of him. Let's mock him. Even though he's taking on things that somebody should have done 30 years ago, and the New York Post doesn't take on because, I don't know, somebody in that family own a lot of money in pharmaceutical companies. Our healthcare is run for the benefit of a few very wealthy people who own those pharmaceutical companies. And we kill people as a result of it and don't give a shit. How about 79 jabs for a child by the time they reach 5? 79. I found that out from my son and daughter-in-law, and I didn't have to get them all excited about it. They were, but I was ready to go to war. You don't even have to tell me what they're for. I know what they're for because you get reimbursement for that. No questions asked. It's the same reason they killed all of us in order to get the dumb vaccine that didn't work. And it's also why they lied when the vaccine didn't work and didn't cure, didn't prevent the disease. They moved on to it cures the disease. Well, first of all, that's not a vaccine. That's a medicine. But nobody pointed that out. And number two, gosh almighty, if that vaccine works, old lady Biden has had COVID so many times, unless it's some other disease that she has. I want no suggestions from you dirty pigs. None. So he is raising enormously significant questions. We vaccine these kids to death. Maybe. Huh? There's no way all these vaccines are necessary. No way. You do not have to be a scientist. You don't have to be a genius. You don't have to be anything but a person with a nice, good little investigative nose and understand human conduct. Too much money at stake with these creepy bums. And when Pfizer comes in with the vaccine and says, oh, we'll release the papers in 75 years. Why don't you just tell me there's a lot of shit in those papers and that's why you're doing it? You think I'm stupid? No, I'm not. And neither are the American people. Well, there's a lot going on and a lot of questions we need answers to. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the mayor's race. It's going to be interesting to see how far Robert Kennedy Jr. is able to carry on this crusade for our health. But I'm really impressed with the scope and the depth and the high quality work being done here. I mean, they keep accusing him of not being enough of a scientist. Maybe it's better that he's not, because he's directing some very, very good scientists. These are people I read, people I knew about, people I brought to you a year ago and 2 years ago. And he's bringing them up out of the ashes, and he's getting them to tell you what if they had told you 2 years ago, we would have saved lives. And read his book. He knows what this is all about. It's all about two things: communism and money. We'll be back tomorrow, 7 o'clock on Lindell TV, 8 o'clock on Wonderful X. And God bless the people of Ukraine, the people of Israel, the people of Iran, people of the United States, and our great president. God bless America. It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to